if it was more of a acceptable part of the work for GPs and for social workers to talk to people, you know, that they're assessing and dealing with on a day-to-day basis, you know, to talk about end-of-life care, that would make it presumably a whole lot easier if people had that opportunity. And we actually, as professionals, we considered that part of our role.
Well, I think, you know, in terms of childbirth, you know, got it. I think we've really got it spot on.
Yeah.
It's a natural part of life. Painful, but it's a natural part. But if we can get the childbirth right, so surely we can get the end of life as high quality as we aim to regarding the birth of a new life. I think it's really, as a society, it's wrong that morally we're allowing people just to become invisible and to suffer in silence, partly because they've got the wrong diagnosis. They're unable, for whatever reason. It could be language, it could be, you know, age, it could be whatever. That their views are not understood and heard in a way that actually, you know, we as a civilised society would think that we are looking after people. But I think it's certainly my experience. I could have slipped away several times over the last couple of years, and that would have been it.
Have you said earlier you hadn't really had the opportunity to discuss it with any professionals, so does that mean you haven't been able to make any end-of-life plans at all?
Thankfully I've been able to, and that was with the help of a hospice that really seemed to understand the issues, concerns, anxieties that I was having, you know, as a young man, having to face issues that I never thought I would have to face. With the help of the hospice, I must say they created a space to really just brainstorm, really let's work out what's important for your wife and kids. So, and that space to me was so precious, because it did enable me to take certain steps, even things like power of attorney, you know, those kind of practical things that we don't always get around to doing. So, but I think really, because of the stigma of hospice, that didn't really need to take hospice to enable that to happen. And when I think about it, it happened by chance.
Did it?
Yeah, so it wasn't like part of a plan.
Right.
It was kind of me desperately trying to swim and find some kind of support that I came across the hospice, and that was something I'm so grateful for, because that has opened up a space that, as the illness progresses, my questions, my concerns are constantly changing and fluctuating as the illness has progressed. But I must say, from my point of view, it took one incredible nurse, assessor for continuing healthcare, that really took the time to really understand the impacts and the effects of this progressive MS that helped make a difference in the, you know, it was for the first time, I would say, that someone that really grabbed hold of it.
I see.
However, had it been a different nurse, assessor, it could have been very different. But from my point of view, shouldn't there be a consistent assessment process so that it doesn't depend on the quality and skills of the actual.
Yes, upon a particular person.
You know, so I count myself fortunate in that way, but I feel I was lucky. But actually, to get to that point, I had many years of struggles with social services, even to get a basic thing like respite, which I haven't had for 5 years. But you know, it would just feel a lot of form filling, a lot of justification, be it by telephone or by letter, which again, you know, I'm dependent on carers to put that together.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And you know, we're trying to use the time that we had allocated to just do the things to keep alive, to keep going. But
at that time, did you feel like you had any control over what support you were going to have, or did you feel like it was it was somebody else's decision, and you know, did you feel completely powerless?
Yes, I did feel anxious. I felt things were taken, you know, right from the top. The government's decision to close the Independent Living Fund, which was a big half of my care package, and it closed this May, would have been even more, and it has been devastating for a lot of disabled people.
Yeah. So
yes, you feel disempowered. You do get pushed down there. What's the point? You know, am I proving too expensive? Is that what it's about? But for me, it's far more subtle, because for me it's a false economy. Because if I'm just using my example, if we don't get this right, it will have major impacts on my wife and my 2 children, and for their health needs in the future. I can just see actually it's not as expensive just looking at me, but looking at all of me and the impacts on other adults and, you know, and their health needs. That if we don't get it right, it could have major impacts on the cost of their health needs. So I think it's having that peripheral vision and long-term vision, that we're not dealing with just one individual, but we need to look at all of that.
The whole family approach, really.
The whole, and the affected parties, because some people may not have family, but you know, it's really having that awareness and not being so siloed.
The same sort of thing, really. I wanted to ask you about, you know, how you feel the health and social care systems work together, how the professionals work together. What are your views on that?
It varied based on the individuals. I felt social services slowed down the continuing health care people, and for me it felt like a forced division of labour.
Right.
You know, that these are 2 areas that hold pots of money that have major impacts on a person's life, and if they're not communicating well and letting the person know how they tie up, actually it causes more stress and anxiety. Constantly thinking about services being taken away because of misinformation, because of people holding on to their particular area, but the actual person in the meantime is really struggling with the uncertainty of what the options are and what could happen to make their lives easier whilst they're coping with their illness.